This is Dan Max at eXp Realty, aka the Trading Agent. This is your in-depth review, market levels. So, as of, I guess, Tuesday, December 6, 2022. Year's moving quick. Can I get a mic check and give 2 seconds for people to come in, and then I'll start really getting into it. This is not going to be a short video. Ideally, it's going to be pretty in-depth. We have a lot of stuff going on between now and the FOMC, and personally, as most of y'all know, we got stopped out of, I got stopped out of all positions. Some people may still have some. I personally wanted to get mentally to cash to clear the brain. And so talk about what to do next, how to, I don't know, just be prepared, be thoughtful of what's going on. Let's pay attention to everything. And yeah, let me get a mic check and see if there's anybody going to be joining us. Might be a little slow. I know I just dropped this. Someone's like, oh, just do it live, please. And it's like, all right, fine. This is what takes the longest, just going through the stuff, taking notes of what to expect, and then being able to act upon it, right? It's not as simple. Hey, what's up, Shannon? Hopefully you're doing well. All right, if I can be heard, then I will speak. So again, I appreciate everybody's love, support, thoughtfulness, understanding. Markets aren't easy. Try to warn that to people. People get real frustrated when they're wrong. And the thing that I tell people is, if you get frustrated by being wrong, do you also get super excited about when you're right? And the thing that you have to be aware of is your emotions here. Like, I know people who can't take profits when they're right, and then they get all frustrated when they're down. And so they're probably also holding stuff versus just trading around their core, or if their max pain points are hit, you just got to go, and that's why today, the market continues to drop. Oil drops, nat gas down, some of the names that we're following. I'm just like, thankful I'm not holding. You make the decision, you get out, and sometimes you get out and things rip right back against you. But you know what? You got to stick to your disciplines, because if you don't stick to your disciplines, it's guaranteed that you're setting yourself up for failure, because you're ultimately going to be doing things that are what? You're doing things on a whim. You're not sticking to a system. You don't have ways of predicting how you're going to react and then acting on what you need that you're predicting. Like, a lot of people struggle with that. It's like, oh, stops. Well, I'll just hold longer. And I posted something from Peter Lynch last night. What was it? He talked about this, and his little video is joking. Someone was like, hey, I bought at 10, it's at 6. What do I do now? And he argued, if you're going to hold it and you think it's going back to 10, then you need to be aggressive as hell. But if you are buying and holding something and you are not confident in it, you get the hell out. It's just that simple, because then you get stuck in wasting time. And time is the issue here, and opportunities are the issues, right? By sticking to a loser, you don't have the potential to weave your way into winners. So I appreciate everybody. Again, if you're new to the channel, Discord room's open for another day. Pop on the Twitter, follow me. I'm telling you, posting what we're up to, constantly trying to keep people informed. If you're newer, check out the educational trading videos, Back to Basics series. I probably need to add more of that, but there's just so much more stuff I could be doing now near term that I think is important, because the markets, the volatility, and what's going to happen is probably going to be giving us great opportunities. So near term just is what it is. So let's go start off on oil, because oil is one of the names that we liked with the D, ED. Right now, I can't get too excited about it. Whether you believe certain news or not, what's going on, we have to respect the price action. And this is where maybe my experience of getting my ass kicked helps me with oil, because it's acting like gold used to. When the fundamentals don't really make sense, the supply issues don't make sense, inflation doesn't make sense, nothing. But you have to remember, there still is a manipulation game within the paper markets. And at this point, I don't know. I really don't know. You can argue recession, hence why oil's dropping. You could argue the flooding in the market before the caps, potentially. There's a lot of narratives that can weave into why the market's happening. But regardless, we talk about the news and the noose. Like, just trade the levels. When you're gone, you're gone. And unfortunately, that's just the nature of the beast here. So watching oil, I'm going to just take notes and I'll go back and add it back so I don't speak. This didn't slow everything up. I mean, you got to watch this 74, 75 range, 76, whatever you want to call it. If that fails, now again, please get out pencil and paper or whatever your way of taking notes. That's it. Make sure you're doing it. And then if that fails, I think you could see the 68 down to 60 level. I know that's a big range, but wouldn't we all agree if it snaps here, why wouldn't it take out a level and go back into the support zone, right? Any questions on oil? It should be pretty simple here. It has to hold, but here's the thing: if it holding, I anticipate it's not going to move anywhere unless Russia says or does something. Not says, because they're saying a lot of crap, actually. It's just, will they actually do anything about it? I think that's the market's calling their bluff on that. I think Lupus was talking about that. It's like, yeah, all this talking, but what are they actually doing? You know, we don't care about the talk. So, any thoughts, questions, concerns? I know some people, my man Solomon trolling me on oil, he was right. Usually he freaks out at the lows, but again, I mean, this trade, if you look at it from a risk-reward, you know, I've talked about this, the 76, 75 area has been major support for almost 15 years. I mean, 17 years, actually. So if you bought it down there and you traded it, I mean, it's one of those things people go, well, wouldn't you go back and you look at things differently? What would you have done differently? Maybe sell out earlier? I don't know. I mean, I still like the trade. I mean, irregardless, if you didn't see this, I mean, you're still doing the same thing, right? So people love to get nitpicky about perfection, and it's like sometimes market gets you. That's just the freaking reality of it. The market will get you, and you can't do shit about it other than anything. You just act on it. So, nat gas. Got to give props to Sonny and friends who were like, hey, I don't think this stuff's going to hold up. Some of the seasonal tendencies. And again, what I thought was choppiness at worst. Nat gas, this is tough. Remember, the UNG is deteriorating. So if you got that, or what is it? Not boil. Yeah, boil. You got to be careful. These things deteriorate. So you got to be like err on the caution, for signs of caution first, than being risky. It's the same thing with like Gush. When I started getting into it, layered into it small, added a couple times small, and then when it wasn't working, I'm like, well, here's my max pain. Do I either want to double down and tighten up my max pain or give it more space? I decided to give it more space, and either way, it was still an L. Still an L. Nat gas, I mean, this action here is just hard. Because this is a big move down, right? 760 down to 570. 2 points on 7. I mean, you're getting into the 30% drop range in 7 days. That's a lot. It's very much a big move quickly. Why? I mean, you can ask yourself this question 1,000 times. And the problem is you have to be careful is that if you're trying to answer the question, you might not get the answer until the move is done. And that could be a problem. People struggle with that all the time. Oh, I'm going to wait for... I need to know why. You ever heard buy the rumor, sell the news, sell the rumor, buy the news? Like sometimes waiting is too late because you might be sitting here going, why is nat gas getting punished? Well, does it have to do with the Freeport backup, inventory buildup? I don't know. No one knows. Let's not sit here and pretend because we're not the market makers. We're not the ones hitting the big orders. Either way, I mean, I'd be watching the mid fives. I don't know why we wouldn't test. And again, I'm just taking notes. Why we wouldn't test down back to here potentially? If oil is taking out the lows, why wouldn't at least we get back to the mid fives, right? Yikes. Bitcoin, I'm not even going to do it. I just don't care. I'm just going to go through my checklist of things that I follow. Because again, Bitcoin, people talk about it all the time. I'm like, it doesn't matter anymore. It's such a laggard. It's kind of like remember, if Eric or some of you guys, like, they talked about how, like, hey, in gold in 2015, 16, like, if gold goes up, the market has to go down, and this, and it's like, no, none of that. Like, these correlations that people get fixated on change. You know, someone's traded gold forever. Like, you hear every single rumor out there, every single, like, stupid manipulation point to, like, argue that, oh, if this does this, then this does that. Well, at a certain price, Bitcoin has gotten absolutely destroyed. It going lower probably isn't shaking out more hands. Will we not agree? Like, there's a certain point where the weakness is priced in, meaning how it'll affect the overall market, right? So, anyway. TLT, I still think that we'll probably struggle here at the 106, maybe 108 range. I don't see how the Feds can push rates higher, right, without that being priced in. Hence, now you have lower rates, potentially a slowing economy. Well, at a certain point, oil coming down, commodities coming down, might help speed up the economy. This is where it gets, either way. Like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. I don't know if I would trust the TLT. Unless you're expecting the next leg of the bear market, wipe out, then you could get this rally. But just keep in mind, this is the hardest thing about the TLT this year. And if you're not taking note of this and you haven't noticed this, the bond market and the stock market, SPY, basically look the freaking same, y'all. When the SPY goes down, TLT goes down. When the markets have risen, the bonds, TLT has risen. Have y'all noticed that? Anyone else notice that? Yeah, it's, everyone joking about the 60-40 portfolio has been absolute dog crap this year. Well, that's why, because bonds and the stock market have basically followed each other. So, let me sip a coffee. Any questions, thoughts, concerns as we keep rolling through this? If not, I'm just going to go. Dollar. I've said this 1,000 times. I thought we'd get down to the 200-day when we were up in November highs. You're welcome. Now we're here. 200-day, just watch. I personally think the dollar, people are arguing that the dollar is dead, peaking, BRICS this, BRICS that, OPEC that, Russia that. It's still the currency until it's not. Remember, we expect a blow off top of epic movement potentially to be the top. Now, has it happened? I mean, that could always be priced in. But I still don't think I still think you will get a retest of at least the mid-30s on the UUP. And at this point, just watch the 200-day. just keep it that simple. 200-day, could it rally? I mean, 20-day has been resistance, but then you notice it can spike over the 20-day. So I'm writing down 20-day pop plus. Any questions, thoughts, concerns? While I sip more coffee. I got a big jug of it because I just want to get through this. I mean, I do this regularly. It's just now that I'm 100% cash, this is the best time to do this because now you don't have any preconceived notions. I think the market can go down in front of the Feds. I think it also will find whatever low it is and it's going to chop. And the market's not going to make any big moves. I'm laughing at people on Twitter going, oh, I'm buying SPY 405 calls for this week. And I'm like, this week? Man, you got to be high as hell to think that the market's actually going to move big either way before the Fed meeting. Unless you know something that I don't. The VIX. We talked about this. Nobody said the VIX would get absolutely obliterated, except us, when the market did not confirm the breakdown with the VIX following through up. Now, I still think the end of the bear market's not over. But are we into the 1970s kind of crap with a 2001 capitulation? Might be like a, who knows? You know how like 9/11 caused the next wave down in the NASDAQ? I mean, we'll see. I mean, there's a lot of, it feels internationally driven. Yeah, China expect to announce ease of COVID restrictions on Wednesday. Yeah, Frank, that's been known. You know that, right? Like, if you go look at some of the Chinese hospitality stocks, they've been on fire. Now, one of the things I relate to the oil market is I'm pretty sure China's got their flood of oil. Like, they're good for now. So I don't know if that really affects the price near term. I think the best thing that affects this floor on oil is going to be some sort of what I'm considering is going to be popping up soon is the negotiation with Congress on their budget. Are the Republicans going to advocate for refilling SPR? I know they're going to ask for troops. No, not necessary for COVID vaccines. There's probably going to be more things that they argue about. But remember how we talk about how we pick the bottom in the SMH? It's when the sides start really laying out their talking points that you probably will peak in the strength of the peak of low, whatever the negotiation is, right? They'll dig in as hard as they look. Then they'll all go out and Congress will go, oh, go buy your stock. I got to go buy my stock. I'm going to go, hey, let's buy this. Let's buy that. That's kind of what they're doing. And as much as that sounds like bullshit, it is. That's typically what they do. talk aggressively, get on the news, get some headlines, price in whatever, and then they go buy the stock. Whatever stocks they're preferring. I mean, I'm seeing, what's his name? The guy with the eye patch in Houston. He's buying a ton of tech stock and oil stocks the last couple of days. Interesting. And he was one of the best performers last year. We'll look into that more. I mean, meaning like we'll hear more about it near term. The VIX, I mean, we talked about choppy bottom. Back to it. I still think you're going to get some of this like 18 levels at some point. Because again, if the market is going to do what it's going to do, meaning like we have to price in the next start of the next bull market. And this is the one thing that's been very confusing for me personally with this trade near term. You don't peak until everybody gets really stupid excited about potential next bull market, right? Because that's how the market makers unload their liquidity, right? Like you need that headline. People are like, I don't know what you mean by that. I'm like, no, you need the headlines to draw in people to go what? Well, I've been out of the market all year. I'm having my tax loss selling. I should just get back in. That's kind of what I'm waiting for. Now, is that going to happen between now and the FOMC? Probably not. But maybe after the Fed, maybe going to the Santa Claus rally, maybe going into the January effect, new year, new money. That's when, if you look at the past, right? So think about VIX probably spiking and then chopping to lower. That's my thought. VIX 18's max upside probably like that 22 to 24 range. So let's just get into the SPY just to be over with it. Not surprised, like breaking these trend lines. But how I talk about, like tendencies are meant to be broken. So you had 1, 2, 3, and are we just going to respect it the fourth time versus like here you had 1, 2, 3, and then the fourth time you broke below the channel. Remember, tendencies are meant to be broken in the market because that's the best way to trap people, right? That's why I don't believe the top is in, and I could be wrong. Again, I've always acknowledged that, hence why I'm now back to cash, and we'll see what happens. That ultimately, we will break out of this, just like you had here. You had this pop, then drop. Well, here you go. Pop, drop, then pop right back, and maybe we get above the target zone. So, near term, as I look at the SPY, I think in my mind, I've been watching this range down here in the 100-day. I said mid to low 390s. Now, I know that's probably not the answer you want to hear. We just don't know where the market's going to be when the VIX spikes to maybe that 22, 24 level. So that's where I say, put in your book 392, 395. And could it go a little lower and wick out? Absolutely. It could create some sort of long wick candle. But just keep in mind, like I doubt you're going to break below like 390 is probably the max downside. And if it gets down there, then don't be surprised if stops get knocked at 390, right? Like the psychology is if everybody is anticipating a hold there and everyone has their stops there, then the market makers know the liquidity is just sitting there and they see it floating out there in the ether and they'll knock it to try to get people to pop out. I mean, this trend line is very, and this is the problem with very vertical trend lines, is they usually get snapped and they can go sideways. So we'll just say we know, essentially we know the near term strong trend is broken. This little medium term one guy broken. Let me clear some of these out. Hit the upside. So here's the thing. I still think we potentially could go higher, but now let's just assume one thing real quick. Let's get on the hourly. Let me just do this real quick. Switch. And let's take it from the bottom, right? What was the bottom? 346. Because let's think in our mind, is this move over? Here, there it is. And if it is, let's draw the fibs and see how it lines up. Okay. You got the quarter fib, which isn't that important to me. You got this, the 0.386. So this is where I get a little struggle with completion. Because remember how we talk about swing points lining up with fibs when the move is over? This is how sometimes I try to figure out how high we could potentially go. Maybe that's the 0.382 at 390, so 415. Start raising up in the 420s. Yeah, okay. See, that's where I keep saying I think 415 to 420 becomes the max upside, but that might not happen this month. It might not happen this week, Like that's what you got to be conscious of. And people are like, "Why are you stretching out the fibs to fit the volume at price line and the swing points?" Because that's what the markets are. They're controlled by computers. It's very people do not realize, like after the fact, it's amazing how sometimes the fibs line up with the swing points after the move is completed. Well, it's obviously easy to see after the market move has completed. Well, that's why we're trying to figure out what levels will make all those lines line up. And if you can do that, it gives you a little edge. Now, is it a perfect science? No, but it's better than MACD and RSI, that's for sure. Bollinger Bands and all that other stupid crap. Ichi butthole clouds. All right, SPY making lows of the day. Not surprised. Remember, be on a red alert Tuesdays, turnaround Tuesday, maybe, maybe not. Maybe, and again, do you really think, and ask yourself these questions, the market has really any incentive to go huge up until the Fed speak? Right? Do they? No, they don't. They absolutely don't. So let's try to speed this up. Qs. 20-day, here we go. Probably going to back test the little trend lines. If you like that little fib trick, I'm telling you, start implementing it where you think the most volume at price and swing points line up with the most fib numbers, fibs, 0.25s, 0.382, 0.5, 0.786. Sometimes people put 0.75. I just, no. And the 0.618, obviously. Here you go. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Like that trend, here you go. Back test it. This is the problem with tech, and I've told people for months. Like, you can trade them, but don't expect new highs of anything. These are the laggards, you know? So QQQ, in my opinion, I mean, watch, what is that? 281. I mean, you're getting so, you might as well say 280 for shits and giggles. If you like that kind of thing, giggles and shits. No, I'm just kidding. Nobody laughs when they're pooping on the toilet unless they're checking out like TikTok. Let me sip on some more coffee. Sorry. Okay. IWM. Right? Hey. How many times are you sitting on your phone on the toilet? I know I do it. I'm reading the comments from the Discord room, making me laugh sometimes. Some of you guys got some good comedy. I appreciate that. We would say watch for IWM lagging. At this point, the 100-day, it is acting lag-ish. Remember, nothing else is below the 100-day. Remember I talked about the SPY 100-day? IWM is lagging. Star that. But keep in mind, please, for the love of God, keep in mind, when the market peaked in December, look what the IWM peaked in November. I'll show you again because maybe someone new is watching this. Notice, SPY peaked in, I guess, actually January. December, January. IWM peaked right here. Right? Right. Notice that, right? IWM peaked, and it was like, ooh. Well, we are noticing the lag factor. So this is not good for the bulls. Longer term, meaning I think at some point the continuation of the bear market, extravaganza will continue. As I've said, I'm still a longer term bear. I just trade the market. I try to do what it's doing. Like hibernating for months is stupid versus if you know it's going to bounce, go long. Don't just keep shorting to short. Like that's just insanity. Because if you're wrong, then also too you get busted. It's like buying in a bull market and holding too. It's a trader's market. Talk about that. So anyway, IWM. Busting the 100-day, I would imagine. Here, let's just clear this out because I think if it's peaked, let's see the fibs. I mean, personally, I think the IWM has peaked. Holy shit! You know how we talk about the fibs lining up? Look at that. That is awesome. Look at our VAP zone and our zone of importance. I guess it's not really a VAP zone unless you zoom out. But look. Remember I just said it, literally, they line up 0.382 to 0.5. This is my area I'd be watching. Could I stretch it down a little bit? Yeah, because then it actually covers these closing candles. Maybe you could even get it down a little further, whatever, 175. I mean, I'd be watching the 178 to 175. Now, that's a lot on the IWM, but keep in mind, it can lag. It can lag greatly. Remember, think about what's in the IWM. It's like financials, more materials-based. In the smaller names, the ones that are really economically impacted by small gyrations in the economy, right? There you go. All right, Dia. Man, this is a long video, but whatever. Enjoy it. You got to love this stuff. If you don't do it on your own, then you can sit back and just watch this. Talked about it making higher highs like some sort of broadening pattern. Here you go. Now it's at the 20-day. Yeah. No, I don't know. I mean, this is probably closer to the done than the start. So let's just draw the fibs and see how they line up. I mean, I guess it just feels like it probably needs to go a little higher, right? There you go. I've said 349, 350. That's my guess. That's where the most fibs line up. I mean, look at that. Even across from here. You're going to love this game. You're like, holy crap. I mean, if you never realized this, I mean, this is a hack. Nobody talks about this. And again, I don't ask anything of people. Just study this stuff, learn. There's no payment required. Just make sure your tuition bill is a lot lower. I still think we're going to get up to 349, 350. That seems likely. This has been leading. I don't know what's going to lead it up there. Is it IWM or IBM? I don't know. That to me seems like the most likely. Whatever. Gold. Let's start pounding through these. Gold. Hate it. Hate gold right now. Remember, there's always a seasonality effect going into the Feds. December's, there's always some sort of low. I personally think at some point we probably rally higher, but is it the bottom? This is where it gets tough, right? Because gold isn't what people think it is. It doesn't go up when the market goes down, and it doesn't always go up when the market goes up. Like, it's a very tricky little bugger. And so if you're looking at gold and you know the seasonality, like there should be some sort of bottom in December. I mean, I've got in my books 161. I mean, that's the first support. If not that, then the 158. And then my favorite is way down there. It's at the 148, and that would be on the monthly. Let me just change it to the monthly. You can see why. Now again, this is me being greedy. But look, it hit the 20 month. So if you're listening, Jay Solstice, I mean, you're right on with gold failing here at the 20 month. I want to see it down here, this bottom zone. So will it get there? I mean, you don't know. You don't know. I mean, anyone promising certainty is certainly lying. That's how I look at it. Anyone promising certainty is certainly lying, because you don't know. You just don't know. I mean, you always laugh at like the Livermore book. He talks about those guys who like, they got this tip from somebody and then they got mad at him and they were going to write this horrible letter and tell him to go piss off. And they're like, but then he won't give us any more tips. And it's like, well, again, you took information from somebody and it was wrong. And now you're like scared to ask for more of it, but you're going to get like mad. And then you're going to be like flipping, flopping. It's like, okay, yeah. Well, again, you think they know for somehow certainty? They don't. They just don't. That story's hilarious to me. Silver always gets smashed right before the Feds cut. I mean, at this point, yeah. Blowout top. I mean, I don't have silver on my radar. I mean, I'll be watching it, but I'm still not convinced it's ready for prime time. Now, I know the inventories are low, and people are going to talk about all of the games in the silver market, and it's like, yeah, and you're going to get tricked by it again thinking that it's going higher. Now, remember, silver does better industrially when the economy is what? Hanging up. Well, no, not surprised. We talked about how the third quarter GDP expectations are 2.9%. Well, that makes sense why silver would rip. Now what? Good guess. Mirror's guess as good as mine at this point. I personally probably watch the 19 level. It's right down in here. 19, maybe area. Just see what happens. Area 19. Moving right along. Let's get into GDXJ. Congrats if you shorted this to the 618. Does it need a retest? I don't know. The higher it chops up, sometimes that's just good enough for this stuff. So we'll see. Personally, debated shorting it. I'm like, man, just come on, give me any little pop. Just a little pop. And didn't. Your first support's at 32. I still think it gets absolutely ravaged. And the range down in the 25s is where you would honestly drop your pants and get ready to dance. sideways, whatever you want to, get in bed with the GDXJ. That's like the ideal level. We'll see. We don't know that for sure. It all depends on what happens to the market, right? But if a leg down continues, say, into January, after the peak, and then the market gets smushed, that's where at this point these names are just, again, unless you short the highs, I don't think you have really any value in doing anything. So congrats to those who shorted the highs. Let's keep it simple, stupid. GDX, same thing, 200-day, a lot of volume up here. I personally, now this one I would like to see at like 15, 16. I've talked about why these things get absolutely beaten. Well, again, they're the big names that are probably running low on reserves. They got to buy somebody. So that's where, if you go look at the monthly, show me the fucking money zone, huh? Hit it, back off. This is the like this area down here. I would absolutely do backflips on the GDX with excitement if we got down here. Yeah, let's just say 15 to 18 backflips. So 15 to 18. Just enjoy. I know this is slow. It might be painful to you, but if you don't love this, I mean, this is how you think about it, because it keeps you from getting in trouble. I don't really want to get too deep into the minors, because we could, if I'm not interested in them, I don't really want to dig too deep into them. Like, we're going to need to see the indexes and the ETFs play their game. So let's just jump into XOP and some of the oil names. At this point, it can get beaten. We know that. It's holding up relatively well. Keep in mind, 55% plus short interest in the XOP. That's a ticking time bomb. When will it rally? I don't know. The 200-day clearly hasn't mattered. Come on, 200-day. Keep lining up. There you go. It's like weird. I have to go back in the past for it to like redraw itself. Then I go back to the future. Or the present, more like, sorry. Sorry, the wife is texting me. She's working from home now. I mean, you got to probably assume that this trend line, right? Let me zoom out for y'all. Would come into play. Now, what would be the best situation, right? Like, what would be ideal for this trend line? And you know this. Let me remove some of this crap. Would be to slightly break it, right? Just slightly break it. Let's draw some fibs. I know this is a dirty chart because I'm zoomed out and I have a lot of crap on here. Let's take it from this low first. Is the top in? The fibs don't really line up from that one, in my opinion. Is the top in? It's like, shouldn't you have done this earlier? I guess, technically. No. Not really seeing anything grand. Let me remove this. This is an old fib on the monthly. Yeah, I mean, I think you would love to see. Oh, it's already there, this box. Let's just stretch it to here. This would be your downside target. It defaults to upside. Downside target. Because keep in mind, if oil gets pulled back, XOP could drop a ton just because of the market and the way that the fund flows work. So I'd look at the, XOP 1, I don't know. It just doesn't feel like it'll be so simple. Like, everyone could say 125, but I mean, if you really want to get the best liquidity to unload your short into, you're going to have to get 125, maybe down to 110. That's a huge zone. But people don't realize, like, this thing is a very volatile ETF. I mean, it trades like an option, essentially. USO, let's just jump into it real quick. If this breaks, which doesn't feel good, doesn't feel right, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised by... Remember, this ETF decays. I think we'll just have to stick to oil, watching oil. I mean, it's probably going to be 60 or less. Keep that in mind. UNG, God, thank God I'm out of this thing. This ETF can get absolutely murdered. I don't even know where it could be. So just keep that in mind. ExxonMobil. I'll go into a few big names, certain things. At this point, 50-day, sayonara, arrivederci. It's breaking. Did not get the monthly channel, which is rather surprising. Does it M top like a bigger M? I don't know. This is where it gets a little tricky, right? We don't know. Like, how could because the market could rally back, oil all the stuff after the Feds, right? Let's see how the fibs line up now. Wow, okay, that's interesting. Yeah, that's it, potentially. I would probably look for something sub 100. That could happen very easily. That might be the near-term one. Longer term, you would love to see ExxonMobil get back down into this area. Sub 90s. Sub-zero wins. Yeah, sub 90s. All right, trying to move quick. PXD tore my heart out. It's all right. It won't be the first time. I'll get you back. I would watch for this 200 area. This thing can get pretty wide and loose. 200 area also is the 20-month. Come on, drought. Yeah, whatever. 200 area. Just writing out some levels. People are like, these are pretty extreme. Well, what about near-term stuff? I personally think near-term, this is what's going to be... all right. Popped out there. Are we good? My software failed for a second. Are we good? Can y'all hear me? I apologize. The stream got kicked for 2 seconds. Can y'all hear me? Can I get a confirmation? All right, cool. That's weird. It went out for like 3 seconds. All right, cool. I don't know who's listening either. SCO, again, I like some of these copper names. They're holding up pretty well. I just don't think they'll absolutely break out. It's hard to get a breakout in a market that's pulling back. Now, if Ukraine stuff kicks in, that's why copper, did a little better. We'll see what happens here. I personally think that if the market gets bludgeoned, the downside, are we going to get down to the September lows? Probably not. I would guess. Now, again, we don't know. Unless, like, the S&P gets down to, like, 2,700, I would imagine this stuff holds. Those are big ranges, I know. Just keeping an eye. Again, I'm just floating through stuff. Freeport holding up. I personally don't see how these names... It's like kind of like U.S. Steel. Everyone's like, oh, look at the steel. Like, well, if the market's getting closer to peakiness... Peaky Blinders, great show, by the way, if you've never watched it. I don't see how this stuff is going to continue to rise a ton. But here's the fact. Here are the hardest parts. What are the Feds going to do? What are the Feds going to do? If they're talking about being done, close to pivoting, whatever you want to call it, maybe this stuff does. This is why I keep telling you, I don't think the market's going to go anywhere with great gusto. UVXY, God, I know idiots jumping off cliffs trying to buy this stuff, and it's like, I would not get in bed with the UVXY. Good luck. Once these ETFs get below 10, they just don't act well at all. You can even argue below 15. Look at this thing. You'd think in a bear market you'd have had some monster moves, and I'm talking about, not just doubles. I've seen the UVXY go, where is it? It's in the past. Yeah, UVXY 104 up to 1,400. UVXY 320 to 900. Oh gosh, sorry, I'm just playing with this. Talking wise, when these things decay. 381 up to 1,500. Notice what it's been doing the last couple rallies. This thing needs a reverse split. I'm just telling you that the decay is decaying quickly. Think of this as like ice cream on the on the sidewalk. I don't think you're getting to 13s, but maybe you will. I don't know, but that doesn't seem that exciting to me. 300%. It needs to be like 21s, 25s to even get worth the risk. Solar. Let's get into this because this is where it gets interesting to me. If we are topping today's action, and I said this multiple times, this could be very ominous. This could be the washout in the sense of bringing everybody. Holding the 20-day, I'm putting in, again, now, short versus long. I think for solar now, if it holds the 20-day, that's pretty typical standard issue. I would just put in a 170 plus. If you see that, I mean, I think you can realistically short it. But just watch. But this is the thing. Please, for the love of God, again, consult a financial advisor, whatever you need to do. Like, this isn't my responsibility to do your work. But if the market is ripping and rallying higher to 420, 415, you probably don't want to short it. Sedge, watching these areas, I still think this thing could probably get up to this 340 area. It's acting pretty well considering, right? Just an idea. ENPH talked about blowing out of the channel, pulling back. We'll see. I've said it needs to do that, but this is the problem. It did it twice. Maybe the lower high. I would put ENPH, just put an alarm, 330 plus. First solar huge indecision candles more in the first hour hourly chart. Okay, let me check that out. I haven't looked too deeply into the charts today because I'm like just not even tempted to want to do anything. Huge volume doji. Yeah, pretty wide and loose. Yeah, I mean, you could technically call this a bear trap, right? Because you look below range lows, you've based to rebuild. This is where it gets really hard with this stuff. I mean, it's been on fire. Yeah, your guess is as good as mine on solar. Personally, I mean, I can't short this at the 20-day because we've seen what happens when it gets down here. It can chop at it. So just the first test of it doesn't really give me any like ho-hum confidence to go, yeah, let's short the shit out of that. Nah. I'd rather a retest. Remember, I'm a fan of the retest because when you get the retest, now the market can see the top two. Do y'all understand why retests are so important? A lot of people are like V tops, V bottoms. Like, you are high as a kite to think that's the best formation because people don't believe it's the top until way later. And again, what percentage of tops and bottoms are Vs? They're minuscule. 10, 15%, right? So when you get the retest and the market sees, oh crap, it fails, now you've got confirmation that more people will start unloading, right? Because the market makers, I mean, they're not unloading all at once. I try to say this, like the market makers are not one move kind of position. They're usually just like how we explain, like buy in pieces, sell in pieces. That's what they're trying to do. Because at some point, if they can run this higher, that's the best price to sell into more, right? So here's what it is. Let's get into some tech stuff like Apple, the fruit. Man, this one's tough. Because it looked above the trend line. Now, again, I don't give trend lines as much importance, but it hit the 0.382 like dink, ding, 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 ding. I mean, it's just like it looks like a wedge, right? Will we not agree it's like some sort of wedgie? Now, how do you want to wedge this fruit? I mean, we'll see, right? Because if the market goes higher, I mean, I'd love to see Apple at 152 plus to short. At this point, would I go long it? Nah. It just doesn't really have the momentum, right? Like, it's one of those things where if the market and the Qs go higher, there's probably better tech out there. Amazon, remember, take notes. I am too. This thing is dead. I'd watch if it gets to the 85. What happens to short? I mean, I really, really want to see 101 to short. In between, this is where I tell people, like, oh, you have to act every day. Well, good luck. You're closer to the lows, broke below. We got it. What's your downside? I mean, are you expecting all hell to break loose? Well, that's what you would need for it to take out 86. Does that make sense? You would absolutely need the market to get beaten, smashed, and rolling over hard for it to take out that level. Because right now, you know there's going to be people, again, it filled the gap, potentially looking for dips. Remember, the stock was at 188, 187, near the highs. CRM, skipping it. Guggenheimstein. It's like Maxstein. That's how my last name was before we came. when we came to Ellis Island. It took away our steen. Was not raised Jewish at all, but family, past Jews. A lot of talk about that stuff in the news today. It's hilarious. Who cares? Religion, whatever. Everyone has their own beliefs. Keep it personal, right? It's tough. This thing doesn't look that weak. Holding the 20-day, I'd look for the short at 106 plus. Downside, I mean, look at all these converging moving averages. I mean, is it just going to play this game where if it gets below it, chop. Gets above it, chop. And where would the lows be? Where would the lows be? I don't imagine something like that. It's not looking that terrible. Here's another. TikTok national security deal experienced additional delays. I mean, again, that whole TikTok stuff. I mean, I think the platform is they've done things that have made it better than Facebook, Meta, whatever, Instagram. But yeah, national security issue. Yeah, absolutely. Meta. Jews are smart people. Well, I don't know. Are they? I mean, I know stupid people of all races and colors. I know some dummies from New Jersey as well that are Jews. This one's tough. And we talked about potentially getting up to the up zone. I'm just putting short at 130 plus. Appreciate the compliment, but I mean, it's really, I don't know why I understand why people would judge by specific color, race, creed, religion. Now, again, yes, there are certain stereotypes, but I at least let people talk. Let me hear what they have to say first before I judge them. People are just, I don't know. You never know how many amazing people. They don't have to look just like you. That's, I guess, a lot of people don't travel either, so they don't see that. I guess someone who's traveled and spent a lot of time overseas in South America, you meet some awesome people. They don't look like you. They don't look like Jim Cramer. They don't look like you and I, potentially. I need to get into Asia more. Microsoft. I still think if the dollar is going to play games, you can get up to 260s. I still got 260s plus, 265 ideally. At this point, if you're going to short, you got to use all the reference highs. Now, keep that in mind. Like if you attack this to any of the tech names, if you don't think the market makes a new high, then don't be surprised. Oh, here we go. News. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell on Senate floor criticized Democrats for attaching cannabis banking bill to Defense Authorization Act. Here we go. Let's start it up. Here you can read the headline yourself if you want. Highlight it. Come back later. Interessante. Again, this stuff is starting to cook. And I'm telling you, people are starting to think about that. NDAQ, Coinbase of the NASDAQ. I'm still expecting 70. I don't know why you wouldn't get up there. It's holding up. Yeah, I think that's the thing. I know might have, here's the anomaly, lighter volume. We'll see. If the market holds up, I still personally will wait. People are DMing on the side why are you talking about people and color and religion and creeds? I'm like, man, because I want people to have open minds. Same thing, it's like in trading. You can't marry a belief. Shouldn't do that within real life as well. Short Morris. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know if I would be shorting headlines. Headlines are for suckers. By the time it comes out, it might already be priced in. Let me just pull that up real quick. What's MOS? Isn't that well, let me just double check what it is. Isn't that pure cannabis ETF? I mean, you want to short it now? I don't know. I mean, the news just came out. I wouldn't. No. Headlines are for suckers. You should have known that was coming if you're shorting it, I guess. I mean, I'm not paying attention to weed stocks. They're dead money to me. Problem is, they go legal. Now it's there's no margin, and now everyone can grow it. So the companies that you're buying are competing with mom and pop growing their own grass. Grandma, what are you doing? Smoking weed. Right? Maybe. MicroStrategy, yeah, I don't even care. Ugh, it's dead money. This is the one I want to dig in deeper because Netflix has been holding up. 20-day trend line. You see the 290, I'd say 295, 296. Just assume I will probably be buying something with that. how can, yeah, you got to be careful when the news comes out. Remember, buy the rumor, sell the news. I mean, just because that news comes out on MSOS, I don't know if you want to short it. I still think this fills the gap. And you got room. So 330. So if you do 290s up to 330 plus, I'll take 40 points. I mean, you can buy one option. That's pretty good. $4,000. You will get the premiums. This thing's leading. Remember we talked about how things like base out, market makers use the liquidity to cover their shorts. Well, now they need to probably mark. They probably went long. And going to mark this sucker up. It looks way better. Even though I'm not saying it's going up to new highs or anything, but it just looks better. So, upside target, here you go. It's filling this gap, 330s. Could it get 0.382? Could it play fib games? I mean, I don't know. I don't see it getting into the 400s. That would I mean, you've got some major upper resistance here at 380s. That's why this spot is, let me just make it so thick you can't miss it. There you go. All right. That one's interesting. Roblox, dead money. I mean, this thing is a buyout target. This is the hardest thing because, look, somebody's got accumulation on their mind. And short covering, obviously. It's just, I would watch Roblox. I mean, put that on your watch list. I mean, I think 30. You could play that. I mean, I think at some point they are a buyout target because kids are addicted to that crap. Sadly enough. Tesla. Here you go. Back at the gap. Or not the gap, but this candle bottom. Remember we talked about high volume, highs, lows, love to retest. Write that in your notes. Especially the candles. There you go. Maybe this is the bottom. Either way, long term, get the hell away from it. Near term, trade it like I'm pro. Trade it. Trade it, trade it, trade it. Trade it, trade it, trade it. I think your upside would be obviously 205 plus, 50-day plus. Let's take notes. Let's do it. How much time have we done? All right, an hour. I was not going to do more than an hour and a half, 2 hours. SMH, let's get in the SMH because this is where it gets interesting. As well, SMH is holding pretty high and tight. Considering the SPY is like at the lows, IWM, this is holding up. I would watch for retest of 230 plus. Maybe the 200-day. Watch for the 200-day, 225. Maybe that becomes your next starting point for a short. Personally, I don't want to short at the lows. That's for damn sure. And I don't want to short it at 215. So if it hits 215, I think you can get a pop. That's what I would look for. All right. NVIDIA. 20-day, 0.618. I somehow still think you're going to get up to this 200-day at some point. Like here's like the funnel of the top, right? 176. I mean, I've said this. I mean, again, don't bring a freaking ruler, but say 175 plus. Shorty. Near term, I mean, 20-day. I mean, the first test. Remember, the first test of things usually gets a bounce. Like, here you go. You had a bounce, right? Got below it, bounce. I mean, not the first test, but test of it. Remember, the market's not moving as quick as people want it to move, and that's part of the market being difficult, right? It's the action that takes time. You, me, everybody wants now. Market makers are like, no. We've back-tested our systems. Time is the key. It's to get the most amount of people out of position. AMD, back-testing this trend line. I still struggle with it personally being a stock for any upside potential because unless it's going to get bought out, but I don't think, why would Intel, I mean, the scream has always been Intel to buy them out, right? But at this point, Intel's getting all the government subsidies. They don't need to buy them yet, if they are. So I'd watch mid-70s. I mean, that's not that far from here, right? Mid, upper 70s, short. All right. Let's get into the commodity names. Well, actually, you know what? I want to get into financials because I feel like this is another thing showing the crack in the wall. Talked about the upper range. Here you go. Looking weaker. However, you've got this gap here, which, I mean, does it fill it? And the 200-day? That's what I'd be watching for. I was noticing that last night. 34.50. Just set an alarm. It holds. That's where I think the market then would start to feel a little more comfortable. The market can rally. I mean, keep in mind, it's not that far off. Hence why if the SPY got down to 392. If you're listening to this, like, that's where I would pair like 390s, 390 plus, 392. The XLF holding the 200-day, right? Like, that probably is going to hold the first time. Got it? Good. Because ultimately it is a short. Like, if the market's going to get blasted, you bet your ass that thing. Morgan Stanley, interesting, not acting good. Now, I mean, I think if you see anything with a 90 handle, you can short that. Watch what happens again. If it gets down into the mid-80s, it probably bounces. I'm taking notes as I speak, because I'm going to upload this into my software. JP Morgan, it's just easier to write it versus type it. Man, it doesn't look that bad, right? Under the 20-day, but at this point, not smoked down. So, I mean, it's probably one of those ones where it's holding up better. I would wait for the 135 plus to short. Where is our friend Goldman Schlacks? These idiots. Man, you want to talk about a group of criminals? Unfreaking real, these D-bags. Yeah, I would watch the man, it's not, I guess it's not that far off. 350s. Sorry, 350s. And if you see anything, I would say probably 20-day. Because after it broke, it back tested the 20-day. I would watch for it, right? Plus up, 20-day downer. We good? Any questions, thoughts, concerns? I'm going to try to keep my voice. Drink some coffee. Just looking around. Yeah, SPY has no lift today. No lift. Is this helpful? Any thoughts, questions, concerns? Anything I could be doing differently to maybe help make this easier? I don't know. Again, recording it live, I think I'm limited to what I can do. Is anybody out there? No, I can see there's a few people watching. That's cool. And again, this is the thing. I want people to realize, like, you don't need to watch this now. Go back and watch this and line it up with your charts later to make sure you got the levels, right? And so that you can kind of be thinking, like, yeah, it makes sense. The first drop, Dan says, will always get bought. It always does. And then what happens is if the market, the Fed say something to get people excited, right? We are thinking that oil and gas at these prices will help us not raise as quickly later. Like, that's kind of the, I know that was so well worded, right? No. But that's kind of what I think they're going to say and hint at. And if that is the case, then the market will absolutely get freaking stoked. They'll get very excited. Those typical idiots. Oh my God, the Feds are gonna be done. Yes, so exciting. Yeah, that's what they're gonna do. All right, cool. XBI. Ugh. I was looking back at this and trying to, like, think about 2008. Check this out. And this is where this one just is like, maybe it's just nutter butter. Leave it alone. I mean, again, keep in mind, it went on a monster run. But even in 2008, and then retested in 2009, like, look at this action now. Where are you? Did I miss you? Sorry. I don't know if there's really much downside in the XBI. You're just going to probably hold out here in the 70s to 80s range. So if you want to trade it, be my guest. I personally, there's better moves out there, downside, right? Like, I don't think it's really worth shorting or longing at this point. I would put biotechs just in your back pocket. And I would say, all right, 64, 65 is great. If not, what's the upside? Yeah, the 100-month, clearly. That's all I got. 60, watch, 100-month. the top. And then we move right along. I don't know what else to say. Let me get into some of these material names, because I know there's been a lot of news about Chinese tariffs. Letter X, holding up. Okay. Could it get up into the 28s? I personally have no long desires for these names at highs at this point anymore, unless they show me some weakness. Now, high and tight is strong, but I can't. I mean, if someone's like, oh, I'm going to hold here, and it's like, no, I got stopped out of AA, and we'll talk about it, and it's like, okay. I mean, the upside seems reasonable, but I'm also not expecting a big move. So even those strong names should hold up. So pick your favorite name and watch. Like, high and tight is good. But don't just bury your head and say if the market pulls back, these aren't going to come back later. Because that Chinese tariff news, as we all know, well, that's great. But as soon as people start screaming, economic weakness, well, then everything gets taken down, even the material names, right? Because then that's what they're leveraged on, economic strength. Looks pretty good. I would watch the 200-day, right? I would say in my mind, man, if you see 24s, upper 24s, 200-day, yeah, you got your spot. New core, same thing, loving it. But you're into resistance zone. So, I mean, I don't know what the upside is at this point. I'd watch the 140s. Low 140s. That would be, now again, maybe it doesn't get there, but people are like, well, why those prices? And I'm like, well, because that becomes like the best risk reward, right? Like you're playing with fire, absolute fire, when you pretend to yourself that you need to just buy mini dips, because that's the problem here. Is like everyone thinks this is going to happen again. Okay, well, maybe it does, but if it doesn't, and it's choppy toppy, then you buy these dips and you get caught in the backdraft, or it just chops out for a while. And that's the thing. Keep in mind, these are huge moves. Nice leadership, right? But, I mean, do you not see the rubber band man getting tired? Straight line move and smaller upper moves. Like Steel D, someone was asking about that, talking about it like leading. I'm like, yeah, it's leading, but it ain't making new highs. Wink, wink. Wink, wink. Now, I got Snitcher. I seen it. And the same, that's my point. They all look very similar. Whatever their relative strength is showing, like recently, they don't look like they're going to break out. UFPI, I like watching this one. This is a lumber name. Housing name, lumber housing trusts, lumber in general for all business uses. High and tight doesn't look that bad on the monthly, because I'm kind of looking at multiple screens here, but you got to be careful when you see something like this, because it looks like it had, we talk about like channel breakout and then fail. Well, there you go. Novice gap. Just things that look obvious to me. Novice gap. Uh-oh. Remember, put this on your like watch list of things like, all right, if lumber is acting weak, something's going on here, right? Remember, we're seeing cracks in the armor. It's just a matter of ultimately, do we get a drop with a lower high or a fake breakout? Because personally, and this is where my intuitions and desires are for the fake breakout, because the fake breakout leads to the V smash, right? Like sorry to jump around, but think about it, right? If the SPY breaks out to the 415, 410 level, and everything stays the same, that will draw in every idiot to buy. And I'm sorry when I say idiot, like people are like, oh, I would do that. Well, okay, well, I get it. That move would be the best trap, because then after that, I go whoosh, down. Because think about the rubber band man getting tired, right? And so once people see a trap, they go, OMG, just like down here. OMG, trap, and zinc. And I mean, you went from 350 approximately, man, up to almost like 390. Like, what kind of drop could you get pretty quickly from, say, 415? 370s? 370s? Very quickly. Not a bad move, right? You wouldn't be kicking and screaming about that one. VALE, holding up. These names, again, look at that hammer. I don't know. I don't know. These names, I love commodities long term. Y'all know that. Absolutely love them. Do I trust them? Near term, no. But they could hold up. That's the $90,000. $90,000. No, it's the $100,000 guess, like the squares, right? Fills the gap, tries to. These names, again, I'll rally through them. I just don't know how much you want to trade them. Arrow, here's a copper name, right? Like, this doesn't look that great. I've put still in my books, like, I expect some sort of retest ultimately in the 8s. If you see these little things, these are alarms. CCJ, someone pointed out, like, hey, it's uptrend. No, fuck CCJ. I've said this. Like, I'm sorry if some newer folks are like, oh, I'm selling long-term puts. I'm like, you idiot. And I don't mean like you idiot. Like, I'm just saying, like, ugh. That's what I'd say to anyone. Like, you got to be careful. Selling puts when the VIX is in the 20s, low 20s on a company that's going to have issues if the market drops. Like, I've said this a billion times. 16 to 18 would be your gift. Oh, I like uranium long run. Yeah, we all do. But then buying Westinghouse, I mean, we don't know how the share structure is going to work out. Like, just leave that alone. Leave it alone. It's been lagging. CF, here my alarm went off on the side here. Gap fill again. Trading stock, holding up pretty good. I mean, I would put in your mind, like, CF. Now, here's the kicker, right? If the SPY takes a little pooper, notice what it does. It goes below the 100-day temporarily. So, below 100-day. How far? How much? I don't know. I mean, 100. I would just say 100. Watch what happens at 100. Now, I like CF because it moves points. Like, a lot of y'all get mad that I don't like to trade, like, the cheaper names. But they just, again, I mean, for like a dollar move, yeah, I know you can buy more options. Great. But I'm trying to get dollars on options. You know? Like, not just a ton of options with dollars. You know? Because then I can buy a small amount and you get the bigger point moves, right? Like, you can buy 5 options. They might be more expensive, but at least you get more upside than 5 X calls, right? That might move 50 cents. Does that make sense? You can, now again, obviously more cost in the CF calls naturally, but I mean, for 5, you know, again, I'm trying to limit like 500 shares. I'm trying to, like, think about if I ever had to take hold of this stuff, I could do that very easily. So, anyway, now I digress. Wait. CF 100. Mosaic. Man, this has been tough. Choppy, sloppy. I mean, I think you're going to come back and down in the mid-40s. I'll try to move through this quicker. Keep it simple. I mean, again, you can't chase these names. NTR. 20 days been crucial, but at this point, if the market plays this game, I think you see a higher low, then why wouldn't you come right back to 76 plus? Right? Does that make sense? I mean, we're watching the SPY, Qs, market, whatever, down today. Not surprising, continuation. That's why I was like, man, if I'm get out today, I'm not surprised. We'll see what happens because it could be turnaround Tuesday or throttle Tuesday. AA, holding the 20-day, looks good. I mean, I know we're talking about aluminum and steel import tariffs, whatever. Don't be surprised if the gap fills. I mean, I would put the AA 344 area back on your radar. And it should hold up. Right? We've talked about Big Dog is loving this. Big Dog is hunting. It just doesn't mean it will necessarily go higher near term. All right. I could wrap this up now. Or do y'all want me to go through the commodity sheet real quick? It's just, if there's anyone here and really wants to see it, because that's a big sheet too. And that's I mean, I've got a whole page full, and that's just on some of the market names I'm watching. I mean, you could get deeper into this stuff, but do you want me to go through the commodity names? Because the commodity list is thick. Y'all know it. That's the next bull market. It's not tech. It is not tech. Give me a second to sip some coffee, throw an ad in. Tell me, do you want me to go through the commodities list? Because I'll show it to you, and then we'll go through it. Oh, I got one to do it. All right. Let me check the time. Oh, my watch died. 10 o'clock. Yeah, let's see if we can knock it out in 30 minutes. Let's see if we can knock that sucker out in 30 minutes. Because I mean, that's the thing. Commodities is the obvious long-term trade here. I mean, undersupplied, underinvested. Everybody needs this stuff. All right. Here's really the start of the commodity list. Hit pause. You can take notes. Here you go. Hit pause. Take notes. There you go. Let's do it from the top. This is obviously going to be on another screen. And I'm going to take notes and just crank through this sucker. All right. I guess it starts with gold, but we already did gold, so let's just go through some of the gold miners. AEM. We've talked about this. I don't like their deal with freaking Yamana Gold. Yamana Gold is trash. Man, it's like a bailout for a buddy. I don't know. I personally would not long this stock unless the bull market was confirmed, which we could see later, or I know it sounds crazy, 38 to 40. Just putting that down there and moving on. But they do have what I consider, they got good rev, decent amount of cash to debt, but man, that taking on Yamana. Newmont hate this stock, but again, you should watch and see what happens because this thing can get smoked. It did in 2000. I always joke at this because people don't remember. I remember still in 2008, everyone's like, oh, gold miners are going to hold up. And it was like, wait, are they? No. I mean, we had this trend line. It was 39 and it went all the way down to 21. You do the math. That was almost another 50% haircut after taking a 50% haircut. Yikes. Oh, Dios míos. Ah, man. See, this is another one. Rand Gold. No, this is Barrick. Apologize. Rand Gold is, I think, wait, hold on. Who bought so many damn gold miners over the years? Yeah, I think Barrick bought Rand Gold, didn't they? Didn't they come together? Come together. Right? Yeah, it's probably 13s. I don't even know the Newmont level. I mean, your just guess as good as mine. Somewhere in like the 30s. Rand or Barrick. I keep calling it Barrick. I always hated Barrick. And then when they bought Rand Gold, I was like, oh, insult to injury. It's like it's like knowing somebody you don't really like, start dating someone you really don't like either. You're like, oh, terrible combination. No, sorry. Someone you like dating someone terrible. You're like, oh, bad combination. Oh, wait, hold on. Post your speech is wiped out. Okay. All right. So here, something. This is why I love briefing.com. Remember, the market rallied on Powell's speech last week. Right? Like, put this note at the top of your list. Market rallied on Powell's speech. Well, when's he speaking again? Right? Do we run up into that in crescendo? That's where it gets interesting. The faster we get down to the lows for the week, the better. Right? But remember, we rallied on the Powell speech. Well, don't you think the Fed conversation is going to be basically the same damn thing next week? That's why I was laughing. People buying 403 calls and buying calls at the end of the week. Well, I'm like, we don't know where the bottom is yet. But next week's calls would probably make more sense to me if you're actually going to buy calls. Just a heads up. Does that make sense? That makes sense that if the market rallied on Miss Senior Powell, probably again, like they'll start talking, oh, Powell's going to do this, Powell's going to do that. Okay, that's how you get that rally later. So if you're shorting, please, for the love of God, know that you are limited to the downside. NFGC, I've told you guys I like the stock Sprott. Sprott is pretty good at picking gold miners. Last one he picked that I really liked was KL. We did pretty well. Yeah, I agree with you, Cal Cardi. That's why I'd like to see the market even just give it another day or two. Say today drop, tomorrow drop, Thursday chop, bottom, then rally. That would get me excited. That would get me a little excited, like tingling. I like this name. Damn, they've had some good results on some preliminary digs from what I read. Someone can prove me. Always double check everything I say because I'm trying to give you the best insights. I just can't remember everything about every single stock all the time. I mean, I've said I like this thing in the 3s. I don't know if you'll see that anymore. I mean, upper 3s. Now, it used to be lower 3s. Upper 3s, y'all. Upper 3s. Hecla, this is some of y'all's favorite. Looks good. I mean, I'm not a big fan of penny stocks, as y'all know this, but when there are junior miners that are cheap, that are acting certain ways, I mean, you can't argue that they're doing something wrong here. Like, doesn't this look damn good compared to a lot of the other crappier miners? I think you're probably going to have to look for something in the 4s. You know? You can't argue that. That's why we always talk about the market doesn't lie. Right? Like, there's probably tons of other penny names that look like absolute dog crap. And, again, the ones I don't follow, I threw them in the trash a long time ago. What is this one? This is the platinum. Platinum, dog. All right, remember, platinum typically leads gold. That doesn't look good. You're welcome. Was it PPLT? I mean, I would venture a guess. Where's the big volume? Right there at 82. I don't know. Low 80s. Keep in mind, platinum has, you know, if you look at the monthly, it's pretty laggy. Pretty laggy. And it can run. Who be texting? Who dat? How about the Bucks beating New Orleans last night? What a comeback. I turned off the TV and I'm like, oh, wow, look at that. Tom Brady, that son of a bitch, led them back again. Palladium, this one doesn't really look that great either, right? Like, you're looking at the metals, you're like, You go look at the monthly, you can see that there's support down here. I mean, do we test the shoulder line or do we go lower, right? Like, that's the question. I mean, you got to say, man, you are not that far from it. Oof. These are hard, y'all. These are hard. That's why you look at them and you go, okay, well, if you don't know, you have to come back to it. I would say palladium, you got to think sub 160s. That's tough. But remember, these are all supply demand stuff. Like, we all do know that metals are the future. If you want this green future that they're going to try to push, which argue right, wrong, whatever. I mean, we probably need to get off fossil fuels because it is getting more expensive to find it, but you're going to need a shit ton of metals. All right, here's some of the silver names. Always like these leverage ETFs when they're right. Now, keep in mind, these things can get absolutely throttled. But I would look at the AGQ, my bad, AGQ. ProShares Ultra Silver. I would look this one in the upper teens. Because, again, at some point, silver will be the freaking trade. So, getting comfortable with leverage ETFs, if you're like, what are you talking about, Dan? Well, this is what it can do. Now, I don't know if it's going to be able to replay the 40 to 800 or 700 move, but I don't know. Would you take 18 to 500? Would you? Could you? Would you be mad about that? Right? I mean, you put that in your IRA. That might be your next. The irony, potentially, of all this, right, is that the next Bitcoin is silver. I don't know. That would be crazy. I don't know. Just talking out loud. Just some idiot on the internet drinking coffee. Silge, no junior. I still think they can beat this thing down. I would take it in the 8+. Silver is so exciting long term. I mean, I don't know if you guys have physical silver, but I am excited about that trade long term. Mag, I still think you're going to get down into the 10s, 10, 11s. Just taking notes. AG, this thing has not been acting well, hence why I thought. Don't you think AG should be in the 10s, mid-10s minimum? This thing has been dog crap. I mean, I think you're going to see a 5 to 7 handle. Moving quickly, trying to get this through this. I appreciate everybody. Appreciate the love, the support. Pushes me to do it. I mean, if you guys, because if I'm doing this on my own, I don't mind sharing it. I'm not scared of competition. I know 90% of people won't do the work. It's like hanging out with Tiger Woods. Everyone wants to be Tiger Woods, but people won't do what him or Jordan would do to try to be great, and you got to be relentless. Man, they're involved with that Umana Gold. Barf. I still think you'll see probably a 12 or 13 handle. Not ideal. Silver Crest, isn't that Silver Crest or Silver Ridge? Which one is Silver Crest? I like this one as a junior name. Look at the monthly, because this is why I like it's above its IPO price. Now we talk about strong stocks stay above their IPO price. I mean, I would put this one in your books and just say somewhere in the 4 to 5 range. Now, I know these are wide ranges, but when the stuff hits the fan, and we know the Feds eventually will pivot and do whatever they got to do, and inflation just is ingrained, you got to think that this stock could be an ultimate badass name too. Just the way it's acting, the way it looks on the monthly. Because again, this is the problem with stocks that have overhead resistance. Now, again, yes, do we have over resistance? But we don't have like 20 years of overhead resistance. Like, look at, like, when that's why I always laugh at, like, Newmont, right? I mean, you've got decades, not decades, but years of just, I mean, you go all the way back to 87. I've held Newmont since 1987, and I'm trying to get to even. Yeah, their stock structure, obviously, diluted shares. It's just, I mean, value has gone up, but you see what I mean? Like how I could, I'll look at SLIV in Newmont, and I will take 10 SILVs for every Newmont. Well, actually, I'll take 100 of them. I'll give away Newmont to get silver SILV. Does this make sense? Does this make sense when a stock has overhead resistance? It's a dinosaur. It peaked in the 80s and it's stuck in the tar sands, literally like a dinosaur. Anyway, anyone listening? Am I talking to myself? Did I lose connection? Whatever. Here's this GOA. Like, this is one of those, I think it's precious metals royalty ETF. Or no, not a pure royalty. I think it's 30%. I got that on my notes. Looking at the monthly, I like royalties. You ever watch Shark Tank? Kevin O'Leary here. Oh, royalty deal? Now you've piqued my interest. I think this is a good ETF for like a longer term trade if you want. And now again, you only have so much money. Pick and choose. Is anyone there? Anybody? Talking to the internet? Is it just you, me, and Google talking? GOUAU, Goa. What up, Shannon? I would probably look at this in the 12s. FNV, we all like FNV. This one's been better. I mean, I pray in the like 120, minus 120 area. All right, cool. I'm glad y'all are here. Again, I'm doing this for y'all. I could be doing this on my own and not having to taking my sweet time. I would watch, again, we all like WPM again. I would say 31 to 34. Royal Gold, that's always been another good one. You're probably going to be sub a hundo. Now, again, just take note. Whatever. All right, let's get through these. Keeping rolling. I'm going to give myself another 10-15 minutes. Which one is this? The Metals and Mining ETF. I like this ETF. I think you're probably not. Well, again, just set the alarms. Set the alarms. Get under 44, right? Now, just because you see the alarm go off doesn't mean you have to take the trade. But what I would think about in your mind is like, all right, now it's on your watch list. Remember, if you buy early on these names, now I hate to say this with certainty, but you'll probably be safer. It's not like you're buying Amazon right now after it went bonkers, right? Here's a directional double minor. This gets interesting, right? I would set this alarm. 21s. Because remember, these ETFs all have decaying crap in them. So watch the 21s. If it gets to 44, or like some of these names, like they pull back, they won't probably make new lows because of fundamentals. But even if they do, it's tough to think that those levered ETFs will be like dramatically lower. That's why I set the alarm near the lows. Letter X, I've said this 1,000 times. This is a big consolidation pattern. I pray for another 16 to 18 level. Now, remember, I'm on the longer term stuff with these. Which one is this one? In Steel Industrials. I like their balance sheet. Good financials. I think they're a buyout target. I would put them on your list and say, all right, I see this in the like 25 area. I mean, set the alarm. Let's set the alarm, right? Nucor. I mean, I'm just going through them all because I have tons. I've got a monster list here. I still want to see. It's hard to set the alarms, and because they get funky, I just really like to see this down and around there. Steel D, yeah, all right, I get it. It's holding up. Do you want to hold it? Yeah. Here's the next VAP zone. I would probably look somewhere in this mid 80s. Like these are longer term buys or trades if you want to kind of like reference this next area. Because again, pulling back near term, I mean, these all look strong. Commercial metals, I'm familiar with this guy. Zoom out on the monthly on some of these again on the other screens. Yeah, I mean, there's support at 40. It's the old 2008 high. Here it is. Not surprising. Reliant. These names all look amazing, by the way. Like, ooh, man, I still have like old fib extensions on here. I mean, pray that you see something in this 170 area. Cliff, I hate Cliff. I think they are dog crap. They have murdered their stock. They have so much debt. I know they have good revenue, but they just keep piling on debt. Now, if no one can buy them out without reducing this debt. Like it's a liquidity trap until, and this is the thing, I promise me you're not going to buy this until you hear them say something about restructuring. That's all I can say. Just please. FQVLF is an interesting name because I'm looking at the monthly. I would, set the alarms in the 17s. Quantum Minerals, Rio, good old Rio. It's been around a while. Since this one has overhead resistance, it's coming into a kind of a trend line here. Come on, baby. Yeah, there it is. You can see it. Whatever, approximate. I would probably start looking at this gap. Mind the gap. VALE, same thing. I mean, I'm not looking at this thing until 12s. AA. Man, you can trade these. Remember, trade all these names. They're holding up well. I mean, if the market gets crapped, Big Boy has defense. He will be playing. Again, they will be looking. Imagine Big Boy buys, and then he sells some up here in the 50s, and he's taking almost a 70% gain, and then he's like, oh, come right on back. Yeah, let it come right back. Kalu. This is another aluminum company. It doesn't look terrible, but if you look at the monthly, I would probably start watching. Yeah, I would watch the 75 area. I hope this helps. Again, this is just kind of going through it. BHP, they've been around forever. Holding up pretty well. If the markets get slizzard, I would start looking at the 54 area. It's crazy how far away some of this stuff. Yep, USO smoking. Yep. Glad we got rid of it. There's going to be opportunity. Freeport, I mean, I've got an alarm down here. I don't know if I'm going to inch this one up. 28, 24. Arrow, same thing. Again, we're just going fast. 8s, would love it. Tech, TECK, Tech, Resources Limited. See something very obvious here. Some sort of trend line here. It'll probably break it if the market gets smoked. Does it make a higher low? I like round numbers. 30. I know that's only 20% off the highs, but we never know. Good old Moo. Moo. This is the great ETF for the ag names. I would set it down in the low 80s. CF. I mean, again, these are longer term like dump levels if you ever saw them. I mean, I already got it. 80. Pray. Oh, I would. Yeah, man. Again, ultimately, pray for the big pullbacks. SQM. This is another good one. Sociedad Química y Mineral de Chile. Again, Chile has a little bit of risk in my mind, but if you see the 80s and nothing Chile related, man, every time I say Chile, I get hungry. Mosaic, long term. Again, I've got 39.40. NTR. Remember, all these long term things just get haywire and the market gets slapped. Keep in mind, NTR has old highs from 2018 around 60. You can see my alarm is down here somewhere. Yep, there it is. Yeah, right there. I mean, you can't see it unless you zoom way the hell out. It's not worth it, but there's a ton of support up here. Damn it. All right, let me just show you on the monthly. It's like, I don't want to zoom that far out. You can see it right here. Got it? That would be crazy. Again, these are just wishful shopping lists. Don't be scared when they get down there to start shopping. I always tell you, like in a bear market, if the crescendo is happening and the VIX spikes to 50 and things just absolutely look stupid, nothing makes sense, that's, when they say Buffett, blood in the streets, that's when you're buying. Uranium, I've got this name, again, being like these ETFs, it's crazy to think this thing in 2010 was at 140. I just set an alarm at 18. Move on. UEC, this is one of those names. Again, I think they're smaller cap, but they have a good balance sheet. I look at the, am I still on the month? Oh, I'm bound the daily. Let me look at the month. Like, this doesn't look terrible to me. Like, it doesn't look terrible. Now, it doesn't mean it can't pull back, but maybe set an alarm at 3. It's not that far off. It's kind of crazy. CCJ, talked about this, 16 to 18. Alarms are down there. I don't like the monthly on this one because this is where you talk about being stuck. But, I mean, if it holds above 5, I mean, again, this is where, all right, check out the $5 range. We'll see. All right, let's get into lithium stuff. LIT. Man, you got like the 48 level. I would... 63. Now, just keep in mind, like, this stuff could absolutely get throttled if the market unloads. Like, nothing gets rational pulling back. This one, MP Materials, again, 26, 25. I mean, this looks good on the monthly. Do your own research if you're really that interested. Watching this one's interesting. This lithium. You've got support on the monthly at 20. OROCF. What is this? This Alkin or whatever. It looks pretty strong when you check out the monthly. Daily, again, liquidity is not huge on this. Was like, I mean, you and I, someone was talking about this stuff, and it's like, man, me and a few people could literally manipulate the stock. I mean, look at the liquidity. 150,000 shares. I mean, but this is the thing about low liquidity, right? If this thing starts pumping, all it takes is one guy. Maybe it's Bobby Axelrod. Maybe it's just Bobby. Right? Bobby wants to buy some. Man, somebody's got it down here cheap. Interesting. That's holding up. I would set the alarm around here. Maybe Bobby Axelrod is, and if you ever watch the show Billions, I mean, that's like a stock those guys could manipulate. LAC, Lithium America Corp. I like it. I think you're probably going to have to set the alarm under 20. Oil and gas stuff. We already got a lot of those names. Let's go into something like Oxy. I'm trying to think of like levels that Buffett would be at. He would definitely be in the 50s. ExxonMobil, we talked about this in the 80s. Chevron. Oof. I mean, 130s. Keep in mind, that's like the old monthly highs too. I'm looking at multiple charts. EOG, Enron Oil and Gas. The old Enron Oil and Gas. Probably watch sub a hundo. Trying to move fast. Devon. You probably need to look in the mid 50s. Look in the mid 50s. PXD, we talked about 204, 200 area would be the gift. Oh, I don't have the alarm set. IMO. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this one. Imperial Oil. It's been around. Very technical. I would look, like, set your alarm under 41. Oops. Come on. There we go. Or around 41, whatever. Doesn't matter. Marathon. Everyone knows Marathon. You got to check out probably the low 20s. It's doing this quick. APA. Apache. Right? No. Is it a I thought they were Apache. Maybe they changed their name because of someone thought Indians would be mad. Again, honestly, if I was an Indian, I'd love a company named after me or a tribe. I think that'd be cool. I think this has got to be Apache, right? Somebody confirm that. I don't have 2 seconds, but this is what it used to be. This one's been around. Traded this one. I'd watch the 32s. Good old Hess. Here, I'll tell you guys a quick story. My grandfather used to work for Hess's company in New Jersey back in the it was like 80s or 90s. And again, my family doesn't come from money. Like my grandparents were poor, or not poor, but not. Oh, it doesn't like my dad came back from World War II, and his dad had drained his savings. He had no money, and so in his like late 30s, early 40s, he had no money. He ended up figuring things out, but he was working for Hess for a while, which was crazy. Is that he could have gotten stock options when he started working there, and guess what he did not do? He did not take the stock options, and he could have got. I mean, in the 80s, I think the stock was like $7, $8, $9. I mean, he could have gotten thousands of shares. He always, before he passed away at 98, which is good genes, he always like, if you ever get good stock options in a good company, especially in the materials space, you always need oil. He's like, yeah, you do. We'll see if that changes, but long story short, 93s. That's a history background. Dude, it's crazy. My grandfather came back from war, no money in his bank account. Imagine serving the country and then your parents had ripped all your money out of your savings. And you feel like you got to start over. 27s. That's why I always have that tenacity. No matter what happens in trading, I will figure it out. I will continue battling. That's that mind. You just never give up. Jimmy V, never give up. Suncor, 30, 27 area, sorry. If you want to watch a story, actually, my grandfather's brother escaped internment camps in Germany. He's got a video on it. Pretty interesting. CVE, 15 area. LNG. That's why the name Max always is to the max. Pretty interesting how it lives with you. The 200 day has been interesting, and it lines up here with the range highs, but man. Yeah, I mean, I think this company's probably going to do stupidly well, but man, it has been on fire. Have y'all seen the monthly on LNG? That is just absolute fire. I mean, absolute fire. I mean, what's LNG valued at? I'd be curious. I mean, I think you set the alarm 150, but don't be surprised if the market pulls that this one gets liquidated. All right, no comments. Cool. My stories aren't that interesting, I imagine. The 110, 113 area on FANG. Y'all know Diamondback. Doesn't look that bad. ENB, Enbridge. I would be watching this, 35s. All right, I'm going to skip the solar names. I mean, I don't know what level I would buy them at. All right, well, fuck it. 50s. Minimum. CRNG. It's one of those clean power ETFs. I probably wouldn't look at it till 70. ENPH, what level would I buy it at? I know that sounds pretty crazy, but I know. I don't know. These names could be peaking or they could be, I guess technically you should say the channel low, but don't be surprised. CISQ, what is this, Canadian Solar still? Yep. I mean, a lot of these names just don't really get that interested to me. Again, I don't want to solar. I mean, yeah, we'll see. Sedge, I mean, you can't even look at it till 200. First Solar, this one already peaked in the past. I mean, trying to look at the monthly. I don't know, maybe 110 area. Maybe. It still seems pretty expensive to me. All right, special industrials and specialty chemicals. We'll wrap it up. Man, 2 hours. No, okay. PPG, y'all know these guys. They've been around. I would look at the 108, 110 level. Lin Energy, or is it Lin? What is it? No, Lin PLC, 270s. Albemarle. Cool, working and listening. Good. Yeah, that's what I'm doing, working and talking. 190 area. APD, what is it? Air products and chemicals. Man, wow. Fire. Look at that. Fire. I would watch the 228. ENM. Which one is this? I forget. They changed it. Eastman Chemical. That's right. It doesn't look as good chemically. Chemically speaking, it looks like a laggard, actually. They're Studio, connect and reconnect. Hello? You there? You there? Okay, I'm just going to assume it did that connected, booted me off. Watch the 74, 75. Lyondell base, right? LIB, yep. Basel, whatever. Yeah, if you look at the monthly, the 70 area is always interesting. Check this out. Somewhere in this level. Back to the daily. Almost done, I promise. DD. Good old DuPonte. I'd probably look below 53. Caterpillar. I don't know why I threw this on at the end. Industrials. Give me a second at the end. I'll look over it. Your question. This one's been acting up pretty well. Caterpillar, but this is what ominous here. Caterpillar's gonna have support probably in the 180s. Dow Chemical. We all know Dow. Probably just wait. I mean, it's in lag. And watch for the 43. Okay, that's it. That's all of them. If you gotta go, you gotta go. I appreciate it. I'll answer a few questions. Burlington. I mean, I've got a lot of. I don't know. I don't have that ticker. Is that Burlington Code Fact or Burlington Stores? Is this a short? It seems like a short. I don't know why it seems like a short. Just looking at this. Why does it seem like a short? I mean, you're basically anticipating the market dropping. This isn't lagging, so I wouldn't say it's the best short out there. But you got the 0.382. Again, open questions. I'll do another couple minutes of this. I didn't realize it was only... I thought it would take 2 hours. We got $1.40. If you got to go, you got to go. Oh, thank you, sir. Or Deanna. I guess it's... I don't want to assume anymore. You get in trouble. Thank you very much for the... This is interesting. I mean... Burlington Stores, like, and assuming this is the Burlington Coat Factory, is this correct? 358 down to $1.05. Makes a new high today on a little novice gap. Trying to look at different time frames. I mean, tell me your thinking. Let me, like I said, let's brainstorm this. Like, why would I short this? Tell me why you think it's a short, and then we should see the same things. That's what I always tell people. Like, if you can't convince a 12-year-old that something is formationally looks like a short, then it's probably not there. And you're just kind of betting on randomness, which sometimes, that's the hard part of trading, right? Sometimes randomness is what it is. I mean, you can tell that trend line, it broke it. You think retail is doomed. Okay. That's a good starting point. U.S. senators have eased back on proposed curbs on use of Chinese-made chips by U.S. government contractors mid pushback. Interesting. That's an interesting headline that just popped up. I don't like that. Is bull crap. We definitely need to not give the Chinese chips. No wonder the SMH has been holding up. Hey, note to self. Let me post. I got to post this on the Discord room. This is important news. Here, y'all can see what I just dropped. Anyway. Holiday shopping is over. Well, technically, is holiday shopping over? I mean, it's the 6th of December. I don't think so. Oh, I remember Vietnam. That thing got slaughtered. Yeah, I remember Vietnam. I'll look at that one shortly here. This is tough. I mean, you can technically short it here at the 0.382. You got to love, again, when the fibs line up. Hey, Deanna. Remember how I talk about how, like, when the fibs line up with swing points? The bottom is in. Now, I'm not saying necessarily for, like, the long term, but short term. Clearly, the bottom is in, right? I can see your reasoning here. But here's the hardest part. When the market is dumping today and on Monday, Burlington is not getting destroyed. I haven't started Christmas shopping either, actually. Good point, Shannon. I haven't either. I typically don't either until the last minute. Got some advent calendars. This is interesting because if the market, pulls back, then this is a monster anomaly. Like, this is what you want to see this is what I'm looking for when the SPY does peak, right? Like a choppy top and then makes a fake high and then right there, man. I mean, it isn't the end of shopping season. That's the hardest part here. That's a tough one. If you want to short it, you just got to have a stop. No one can tell you what's right or wrong here. Because right now, with the market down, it's holding up technically. It's kind of like shorting some of these material names that are holding up really well. I don't know if I would short them. I'd probably look for dips. Yeah, that's not an easy one. When in doubt, I just pass. Venom, I remember this guy. Oh, it came back to life. Remember this thing. Where's Scott at? Is he in here? Remember we used to trade this thing. It was like, goodbye. I have to look at their balance sheet and everything, but that chart doesn't look terrible. You look at the daily. Oh, you got an uptrend. Very clear uptrend. I'd probably set an alert at 25. It's interesting. Yeah, I'm just trying to, Indiana, this is the hardest thing when it comes to, talking about anything and trading. You put on that trade on Burlington, and nobody's going to argue with you if you're, if you have a stop. It's kind of like some of the folks who bought UNG yesterday, which I completely understood. It made sense, right? You're back testing the trend line. This could be a novice gap, kind of blow off. We are tightening up action today, which is interesting. You had decent volume yesterday. This is the hardest thing, and this is why I love Livermore. And he talks about this, and he is like, you don't know until you bet it. Right? You don't know until you bet it. Well, we don't know. Your Burlington trade idea, on paper, if the market rolls over, it's going to get beaten. No one's going to argue that. They probably got a ton of inventory, and if all of a sudden the market people get scared with the economy, ain't nobody going to be buying more coats, right? Burlington coat, is that the one that you're going to like how you look guaranteed? Maybe not. Whatever. That gets interesting, right? Wow, all 11 sectors continue trading in the red, but lightly weighted utility sector hovers just below flat line. So, yeah, utilities are holding up. Good question. Any other ones? I'm always here to chat about it. I've told y'all, I am not trading anything until I see SPY lows or SPY highs. We're in between areas. I'm just hanging the freak out, chilling. I've given you all my levels. This is the thing about trading. And this is where, this is my personally where I excel. Patience. I've been burned 1,000 times trying to be early. And so if I'm in between levels, I don't care. Now somebody will be like, oh, but why did you like to buy USO and UNG? Well, these look like on uptrends and they look like pullbacks. Duh. We're trying to be patient, right? Oh, you were wrong on that gas. Well, yes, no shit, Sherlock. But when you buy it on a pullback, that's not chasing. That would be chasing. Well, you're just wrong sometimes. That's what the thing about stops. And this is where the better you get at trading, and I'm warning you guys, because I'm assuming all of you are going to be amazingly better traders in time. It's the times that you're just dead wrong that can hurt the most when the evidence looks obvious that you're going to be right. That seems very logical, but get used to being right more times than not, and then next thing what happens is one wrong can screw you over. And that's what happened to me, in iterations that kind of keep me from getting to where I need to be. And that is literally the last step and the hardest part. It's all right, can you admit, even though you're right all the time, that the time you're wrong, you're wrong? It's it just is what it is. It'd be like you're a professional athlete and maybe you sprain your ankle and it's well, do you want to keep playing and potentially be out for the year, or just you take the loss and you lose the game? You just don't want to lose ever. Well, that's the problem. That desire not to lose doesn't matter, because you will lose. I don't control the market. You don't control the market. We will be wrong. And again, anyone promising certainty is certainly lying. That's just my favorite saying when it comes to people on stock twits who just bust my balls or bust anyone's ball. And again, there's a lot of good traders that I pay attention to or watch, and it's like, it's okay if you're wrong. I respect it that you're actually talking about it, because the ones who don't talk about their wrongs are the ones that are full of shit. Yeah, yesterday, patience. I mean, again, and this is the thing, I don't know, Shannon, if you sat back and thought about oil yesterday or gas or anything. I don't think I'd do anything different, because like, to expect another retest wasn't in the cards in my mind, because we had the retest, right? This is why I'm like, now oil to me, it better hold here. It better hold. It better hold. Because you don't want to see multiple retests, because more than likely now this might be a game of games. Like, we don't even realize, like, okay, well, do we need to like get, I mean, you saw some decent volume potentially, and then does it go lower? I don't know, man. This is the hardest thing. And again, if you ever traded gold for any period of time, like, there's times where you just don't know what the fuck is going on, and you just go, I'm out. And then it does whatever it's going to do. And I've seen that 1,000, it feels like 1,000 times, because it just hurts. And when you're talking, and here, I'll show you what I mean with gold. So December of last year, we talked about this being the bottom, mid-December buys. And then it played this game where it chopped the higher highs and higher lows, and it retested these levels, and it was like, you couldn't buy the continuation plays. You had to just wait. And it was so frustrating, because you're like, oh, this is going to go on a monster move. And it shook some of us out, and then it did go on a monster move. Meaning, like, potential fully. That kind of crap happens. Like, double bottoms here. Double bottoms. Do you see how, like, the double bottom, okay. But when I start, like, trying to anticipate a triple bottom, that's where you need the reversal. Remember how we talked about gold buying it here? It was like, okay, this is an outside reversal. That is holding. I am now bullish. I don't believe in triple bottoms, or I don't anticipate them. But if you can close above the previous low, it doesn't look that bad. So here you go. Now this is like, you look at USO, right? Man, the low, 64.99. This candle doesn't look that great to me, because it opened high and is closing near the lows, versus like the gold one, like, opened at the lows, closed at the highs. This oil action to me, and I think you guys would all probably agree with this, if you are trading oil from the perspective of, like, there's 1,000 headlines on there, right? Like, do we all agree, like, there's a ton of noise in the oil market right now? Do we all not agree? If you know that there's a ton of noise in a particular name and it's not acting right, the best thing to do is to stop out and just wait, because you'll probably get a trap then. Because if the noise is able to bring the stock down, because I don't think the fundamentals have changed anything other than maybe oil $79, $80 a barrel, which would take, which should take USO in the 68, 69 range. Something's going on here. And maybe there's a near-term game within the actual, this is where the paper oil game, right? Maybe Russia tried to flood the market with selling of oil before the caps went off. We don't know, man. I don't fucking know. Again, we could sit here and speculate for days about why, how, why, when. Either way, it just says to me, you just got to be late. You got to wait, or you're going to be late. Because if you wait and it does pull back, and we all agree, if the Fed start touting economic potential growth and things are going to get better and they're not going to have to raise as much because oil is down, I'm telling you right now, that will be a capitulation oil move right there. Because people go, here it is, the bottom then. Boom, turn around. Because that's going to be the Feds advertising that they want growth. They're pushing for growth, not to actually slow the economy down. Does that make sense? That's where maybe oil, gold, some of these material names, I mean, depending on if they have, obviously, like, sanction headlines going on, or like tariffs, that's where you might get the pop. I mean, the oil trade really hurt. I mean, every loss hurts, in my opinion. It's just you always got to know your max loss. Like if you can just stick to that, I don't give a shit how excited you get or how right you think you're gonna be. If you can know in your mind, like I'm trying to minimize my loss to X and stick to that, like that's the thing that I have to always be better about. I mean, this is hard to say that it's that easy, and that's why I keep telling like, what is the max pain point, and can you stick to it? I mean, like writing notes for like reference again and later on, like max pain points. Oh, here's some Morgan Stanley news. We'll eliminate 2% of its staff today, according to CNBC. Interesting. Remember we talked about earlier Morgan Stanley was down more? Layoffs bullish? Question mark. Okay. I'm going to wrap it up. I appreciate everybody. Thank you for the generous donation, Dana. Again, I tell people this all the time. You don't owe me anything. I am trading this. I am going to do the best I can to show you guys this stuff because I do not fear competition. But if you appreciate and understand the value in your tuition bill being significantly less than mine and you want to donate, it just makes me want to help you more. That's what I tell people. Like, I want to help people who appreciate it. You know, it's like in any good relationship, the more someone loves you, the more you appreciate them, right? Well, if it's $5, $1, I don't give a shit. If you show that you appreciate what I'm doing, it makes me want to help you more. Because, again, I'm not going to get rich off of donations, and I don't want to. But I will put it back into more. It gives me more time to invest in helping out with the website and growing this stuff. And, again, I'm never going to be big. I have no desire to be somebody who's on TV all day talking about this stuff. Like, this is going to be underground, and it will always be. Because as soon as we get large enough, the market makers, it's like I'm not going to say I'm going to get Epstein, like making the joke, but I don't want it to be so big that everybody recognizes this. You know, the goal is to be like a small group. I was going to say a clan or like a, Wu-Tang Clan kind of thing. Killer bees. Like, nobody knows us, but we spit hot fire and do really well as a group. Everybody having their strengths. All right. Enough of that rant. Y'all be safe out there. Have a great day. Remember, keep an eye on the levels for the markets. I'm going to go play some basketball and hang out. Not trading today, unless maybe at the close if I see a capitulation. But even if you do, you probably get some sort of higher low tomorrow. All right. Peace out.